Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I am a twin flame channel and Western astrologer, and this is a video about the new moon in Virgo occurring on August 27th, 2022 at 4:16 a.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. If not, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This will be the twin flame lunar update for this lunation. Okay, so this particular new moon takes place there at that fourth degree of Virgo and is making lots of very interesting aspects that are creating a bit of tension and a bit of challenge when it comes to forward movement and momentum in our world. There's a lot of, how should I say, desire to push forward and details that need to be ironed out in order to be able to do so. And in the haste and rush and pressure of it all, given how held back we may have felt and how urgent changes have been feeling in the last 90 to 120 days, there's a sensation of a bit of one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake, if you know what I mean there. And so, because of this haste, it's going to make a lot of sense to check, double check everything is as it should be in negotiations and conversations going forward. And I covered this in depth in the Lightworker um, lunar update for this lunation. I also spoke in depth about the Mercury retrograde that is upcoming, that we are in the shadow period of now, and how that will impact relationships. I've also talked about the upcoming Mars retrograde that is upcoming and how that will also impact relationships. So if there are important conversations or dialogue that need to be had in the now time at work, with family, relationships, school, etc., I strongly recommend that you have a listen to that one first and then come back to this so that you have a fuller understanding of how and why things may be playing out in your connection in the way they are. Because in this lunar update, I'm mostly just going to address the energy of the divine counterparts, which is truly only happening in context of the greater energies of the sky. To only get part of the picture really means that you kind of miss the picture. So definitely have a listen to that. Let's get into what the counterparts are up to at this lunation. We start with Juno, the divine feminine energy field here. She rests here in Pisces, and you neither need to claim a gender, transition to a gender, or be a gender to have a divine feminine energy. This is just energy, and we all have it. And so, in the divine feminine energy field, hanging out in the sign of Pisces, all about spirituality, the arts, creativity, our connection to our intuition, speaking extraordinarily precisely to South Node in Scorpio, all about releasing and letting go, ending cycles, clearing karma, forgiveness, and releasing, letting die our old patterns. Speaking to North Node Uranus, calling in some new patterns, some new ways of being, some new ways of loving and acknowledging ourselves here, and speaking to Lilith in Cancer here, calling in the energy of emotional congruence and undeniability of our emotional truths. With Divine Feminine speaking to all of these at the same time. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. The name of the game is still about releasing, still about letting go. It's still about healing karmic attachments, working on forgiveness, intuition being amplified during this period of time, arts and creative process also being amplified. There's a real supreme recognition of her own emotional reality with a grand water trine between Lilith here in Cancer and South Node here in Scorpio speaking to her. And where her own thoughts have been her enemy when it comes to creating emotions for her. You may have heard, and if this is your first time, you can certainly Google that thoughts generate our emotional reality. And if we don't like how we are feeling, we only need to check what we have been thinking to understand precisely what needs to be adjusted in order to have a different emotional reality. In this circumstance, it is not just what we are feeling that is being the signal to look at what we are thinking, but it's what we are feeling being the signal to how we've been living, the choices we've been making, who we have been surrounding ourselves with, the patterns that we have continuously indulged from ourselves, from others, and the ways in which that has worn emotional grooves in our lives and is now up for reevaluation, because what this year has shown us, if nothing else, is what is not working and what must change in order to be able to move forward. And this is a critical piece of this union window energy. The divine counterparts will indeed meet up for a once in 7 year dance inside of Aries at that 4th degree in January. That energy is felt 1 year on either side if you are in fact a divine counterpart. And so you will notice that the pull, because Aries is a sign of the self, the pull in the connection will be to help you remove the blocks that stand in between you and love. And I did an entire series on forgiveness recently. I strongly recommend you have a listen. If you are struggling with blocks in your connection, I do believe that will assist you. Oh gosh. And so, what I'm noticing here as both the divine feminine and divine masculine energies are in retrograde motion, meaning from Earth, they appear to move backwards in the sky. Anytime the divine counterparts have moved retrograde, I have seen in the 3rd dimension, both people in the connection tend to withdraw or retreat into themselves to work out things about the energies they're manifesting through divine feminine and Pisces, divine masculine and Aries, working with that energy in more of a solo way when the connection isn't fully established into some format of 3rd dimensional union, pair bonding, working together in a business, co-creating family or raising children together. I have noticed that during this time, both counterparts tend to work individualistically rather than together during retrograde periods. Just so that you have it, the full retrograde period for Juno is, I thought I wrote this down. Give me a moment. Yes, I did. It's July 24th through October 22nd, and she'll be in Pisces the entire time. For Jupiter, it will be July 28th through November 23rd. He will move from Aries back to Pisces and then back to Aries, where she will meet him in January. So it's a solid period of time during this 2 year union window energy where there's a bit of, oh, I see what I need to do in order to move forward and have love in my world at this time. And in the divine feminine energy fields, it's about releasing, it's about letting go. It's about what needs to be forgiven and what needs to be more aligned with her emotional truth and reality at this particular lunation. During the Mars retrograde season, which will span from late September all the way through February for a full update about what to expect. Again, please listen to the Lightworker lunar update for the new moon in Virgo. This Mars energy will square her at a 90-degree angle and create a bit of tension and a bit of distraction in the soulmate direction. I wouldn't necessarily say distraction, because for some of you, it's just necessary. It's time. Your twin has both told you and shown you they are not available for this connection in this lifetime. We've had an activation for divine masculine soulmates to come through back in July. there is soulmate energy about to pop up for divine feminine energies, as a bond opportunity, a love anchoring opportunity, if indeed your energy is open and willing and ready to receive love in that way at this time. And the Mars retrograde period, I'll talk more about this as we move into it for divine counterparts. But some of you have already met some people, and there's this percolating of energy, and it's creating tension for you and your divine counterpartship. And that tension is just going to get louder as Mars squares her in the coming months, as you feel the connection may still be very alive for you, and simultaneously, you may also be being pulled in a new direction. As I mentioned, if your counterpart has both told you and shown you, they are just not available for this. So, all of that to say, love anchors anyway. The question is, can we rise to love's challenge? Are we open to receiving love in the way love wants to flow? Are we available for love's anchoring? And what do we need to release through our divine feminine energetic fields in order for that to happen? For some of you, this is very concretely about forgiveness. Forgiving God, forgiving yourself, forgiving your counterpart, forgiving your family. For some of you, this is more so about letting go of expectation and being more present with the now, as opposed to some future that is yet to unfold, or that the present is showing you may not unfold in the way you previously envisioned it. Can you release? Can you let go? Can you be emotionally present with what is in the way that it is? Okay. That's the question here. Now, if in your chart, this Mars retrograde is going to take place in any of the relationship houses, for those of you who know your chart, these are houses 5, 6, 7, and 8, specifically 5 and 7. If it is aspecting the ruler of the sign governing your 5th or 7th house, or it is going to cross over your vertex point or the south node in any way, you can expect that someone will show up. Now, if you have no idea what I just said about 5s, 6s, and 7s, and 8s, and rulers and houses, if that sounded like a foreign language to you, then you are more than welcome and invited to book a private reading with me so we can have a look at how this energy is playing out in your specific chart over the next 5 months during the Mars retrograde period. I would say that this period of time right now is probably one of the most important, because we also have Mercury preparing to go retrograde as well in the relationship sign. And so I spoke about how this will impact things in the Lightworker lunar update for this lunation. Please have a listen to that if you know you've got important conversations and negotiations that are going down in the world of relationship or connection, work, family, or love. Have a listen to that so you understand what to expect. But because Mars and Mercury will begin their retrograde process nearly together, there's signals from one to the other. There's a conversation happening here in the world of our relationships. And if you're trying to understand how things are going to play out or are playing out, private reading is the best way to do that. Okay, so you can book with me over at kmoonastro.com. The link is below this video. And at the time of this recording, I have one session available this week on Thursday. It's a 30-minute session, but there's plenty of time available for us to talk this last week of August, the first week of September. If you're recognizing this energy is creating some tension for you, let's have a chat about how to work with it so that it's not continuously blindsiding you, especially if you happen to be one of the signs that are most impacted by this Mars and this Mercury retrograde. Those signs being Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo, Scorpio, and Aries. Mars governs Scorpio and Aries, and this Mars retrograde will impact the mutable signs the most: Gemini, Sag, Pisces, Virgo. Okay. All right, but in particular, I would say Gemini and Virgo, because of the way Mercury retrograde, your ruling planet, will coincide with the very beginning. All right, so let's get into what else is going on here. This period of time of Mars and Gemini and Mercury and Libra, as both of the divine counterparts are moving retrograde, this is going to be a time of critical review of our connections. We're going to be having a look at and reminiscing, where has it been? Where is it headed? What we personally need to do in order to let love anchor, what we personally need to let go of in order to let love anchor. For some of you, there will be recognition and realization that whom you thought was your twin is not your twin. What you thought was going to be a union window for you and your twin is actually turning out to be a union window for you and yourself, or you and somebody else, because there's just lessons to learn, light to share, and leadership to provide in other directions. And for still others of you, you're seeing steps unfold in your divine connection. It's just murky, it's uncertain, and hanging out in the realm of uncertainty can be a bit of a challenge. It's hard to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, to cut the nose and spite the face, when uncertainty is what you're asked to sit in. And with our divine feminine energy fields in Pisces, uncertainty is the name of the game through the end of the year. Everything is up in the air. And so rather than creating a foregone conclusion, presuming things will all go in one direction, or presuming things they'll all go in another direction, at the moment we're being asked in our divine feminine energy fields to let go of trying to control this, of needing a predestined outcome, and instead relax and let love hold us and guide us to where we can hold the most love. That's what we're being asked to do. Okay. That doesn't mean give up your boundaries, that doesn't mean give up, things that are healthy and life giving for you. But it does mean stay in the present as opposed to the future, with a grip on the neck between now and then, trying to figure out how it's all going to go. Okay. Or force it in a particular direction. There's also a bit of a course correction energy in divine connections. And this is really due to the movement of the original divine counterpart, that's Uranus, original divine counterpart to Gaia, connecting with the North Node. And if there was a ruling planet of the ruling planets, meaning Juno, Jupiter, original divine counterparts, if there was something that preceded them astrologically and mythology wise speaking, it would be Uranus. Uranus as the original divine counterpart, meeting up with the North Node in sign of the third dimensional body politic, that's Taurus here, and the way things play out and unfold in the third dimension. What we have going on here is a change. Uranus represents transformation, change, quantum leaps forward. We have a change in the way all divine connections are playing out. This is a rectification, a course correction, a rebalancing, where things have been imbalanced in connections prior to this moment. They are indeed at this time being rebalanced. Where there has been overgiving by one person, this person is noticing their own fatigue and inability to continue. Where there has been over receiving by another person, they may be noticing where they are taking more than they give, and then noticing how unfair that is and willing to step back rather than indulge taking more. For some of you, this is as extreme as runners becoming chasers, chasers becoming runners, if that's language that really resonates for you. There also may be not just the reversal of that particular more extreme energy, but simply a rebalancing of the way the connection is playing out, where each one is more willing to be in a place of balance with it, where there's equal give and take at a level that is appropriate for what both people can handle at this time, as opposed to one being more invested than the other if you happen to be in separation. For those who have been walking along a pretty steady path towards some format of third dimensional union at this time, this is when both of you may really see the internal machinations of the other person and begin to understand, wow, that's where your brain goes. That's the story you tell yourself. That's how you are unfolding when you're triggered into life. Wow, fascinating. And so, as each person works their stuff, this is a period of time where there may be a lot of illumination and a lot of insight if you're just willing to sit back and observe. And again, I speak about this at length inside of the Lightworker energy update for this lunation, the necessity and importance of being willing to observe rather than act at this time, and really stand for love as we work with these energies, because these energies they're confusion creating. I'm not going to lie or sugarcoat that. They can create a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, even more so than we've already had, as each counterpart goes within and begins to tinker with their own configuration to find a configuration that allows them to be more direct manifestations of love here on earth, more direct manifestations of light. And that may mean that life is going to reconfigure in certain ways for both people. And the answers to that won't be clear yet. They will in the fullness of time. We need to give Mercury and Mars retrograde their opportunity to finish their work in our divine feminine energy fields and our divine masculine energy fields, because they're both very active on both counterparts at this time. But until these finish, things are going to be a bit up in the air. And gripping for an answer or forcing conversation is really only going to create more challenge. So, where you can sit back and observe, especially those of you who are in some sort of union at this time with your counterpart, this is a beautiful opportunity for you to witness your counterparts unfolding and their transformation and growth without you needing to do anything about it. Just stay present, keep your eyes and your heart open. Okay, so let's get into the divine masculine energy fields. Here we have divine masculine there, Jupiter at the 7th degree of Aries. It's a very different energy than all of the Pisces, letting go, kind of swimming in intuition, flowing with release and forgiveness and exploring emotional reality. Instead, Jupiter here is having a very different kind of conversation. Jupiter is out in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, having a conversation about what are my ambitions? What do I want to generate and create? What's my passion? What is it that is my uniqueness, my unique flavor? Aries is a very individual sign. It works well with its own individual and unique understanding. And so Jupiter is only amplified in this energy by the position here of Mars. Mars is the ruler of Aries. And Mars here in Gemini is having Jupiter have a real interesting conversation about its own internal duality. Do I like this? Do I like that? Do I want this? Do I want that? Do I feel good about this? Do I feel good about that? There's a lot of exploration in a new frontier in our divine masculine energy fields. And so my question for all of us in this is, what's new? What's different? What new path have you been carving out in your life at this point in time? For many of you, this is emotionally. Some of you, this is spiritually. And for lots of us, I'd say the majority, this is thought process wise. There's a bit of a revelation here that's been happening for some time about the truth of love, the truth of our connections, the truth of who we are, the truth of what it means to be divine, right? Jupiterian energy does govern truth. So does Sagittarius, its connected sign. And so as we get into Gemini, the opposing sign, there's some real question marks, especially as Mars goes retrograde and, is kicking up conversation with Jupiter, kicking up conversation with the divine feminine. There's some real question marks about, well, what is true for me? And you may find during this Mars retrograde period that you flip flop quite a bit, that what's true today 30 to 60 days from now, you may have a completely different truth. And 30 to 60 days after that, you may realize something else is true. Again, I break all of that down inside of the Lightworker Lunar Update. If you're noticing this type of flip flopping, I strongly recommend you have a listen to that. All of that to say, great time for self exploration. Again, moving retrograde, there's an energy here in the divine masculine energy fields of turning inward, turning toward self. It's a time of personal review, reflection, and healing. We've got this opposition here to Mercury. This can make us a bit over optimistic about what can be achieved in this period. Sextile to Mars, over ambitious as well, square to Pholus. Perhaps a little bit of ignoring some pertinent details that could keep us from getting hurt, unfortunately. So we may actually cut off our nose to spite our face, throw the baby out with the bathwater in certain circumstances, but lessons to be learned, and I trust we're learning them. There's a sextile here to Chericlo. Chericlo bringing in an energy of blessings if we simply ask for help from our divine supports and helpers on the other side. And there's an opposition as well to the shaman's asteroid. And this is really talking about bringing in information from the journey that we've been on so far, really heeding the lessons that we've been through thus far. Overall, it's an energy of over optimism, enthusiasm, a push ahead on getting things done. And there can be a sense that connections and relationships, especially with Mercury retrograde in the relationship sign opposite Jupiter, there can be a sense that relationships and connections only slow growth down. And that's going to be here through late October. And so if you feel this way, or you hear those words, or say these words to somebody else, like, I've got a goal and I just can't do a relationship and that right now, just know that it correlates to the issues of kind of self-revelation and self-love we are all working through right now. Okay. Neither counterpart is really featured heavily in connection with this new moon energy. And so, because of that, this isn't a time, this lunation doesn't denote a time of serious moves for either or big changes in the connection itself, but more so making necessary internal adjustments to unblock the path of love. So, again, if you're feeling really guided, I'd love to be able to chat with you about how this is going to break down in your personal chart. You can book with me over at kmoonastro.com. And this will be especially helpful if you are one of the signs that I mentioned, Aries, Scorpio, because of the connection to Mars, Virgo, Gemini, because of the connection to Mercury, or Sagittarius and Pisces as well. You'll find that this period of time kicks up a lot of dust for you, and that the best thing you can do is understand what's the divine purpose of some of the confusion that may get kicked up, or some of the misunderstandings that may show up, so you know how to work with these in your chart. Again, find me at KMoonAstro if you'd like to book time. I do have time in the for the first week of September, and next week as well. I'd be honored to be able to read for you and help you understand your path to letting love land in your life. Thank you so much. Take great care, and bye for now.